The Earth of the future. Interstellar jump technology has already been mastered, but humanity has not begun to migrate because environmental management has achieved tremendous success. There is no other planet as habitable as Earth. Yet in the vast sea of stars, humans are not the only beings who have mastered this technology. The Orns, whose home was destroyed and who now wander as refugees, have also arrived. Their ships have landed on Earth, immediately causing a huge sensation. There are those who support and sympathize with them, while the opposition sees them as enemies. Although the Orns do not advocate violence, humanity still stirred up conflict. But the outcome of this conflict had nothing to do with Theodore, who was far away on an alien planet. This was a desolate world, with thin oxygen and sparse vegetation completely unrelated to the idea of habitability. However, this place is rich in special minerals that can significantly improve Earth's environment. Theodore, all alone, had to spend each day mining ore from the tunnels and transporting it to the carrier satellites on the horizon. 14 hours a day, for a full 15 years. That sums up his entire existence on this planet. This was certainly no worker's paradise, but rather an extraterrestrial prison. This prison covers the entire planet. As a convict, being able to watch TV, listen to music, write in his diary, and cook for himself every day was already a rare privilege. He would count the days on his fingers until his release, looking forward to the day he could reunite with his beloved wife. Until then, he could only imagine her appearance in his dreams. But the shrill sound of the alarm shattered the tranquility, for this planet was far from peaceful. In addition to having to work according to strict regulations, one also had to beware of the dangerous pink mist at night. He was far too old now. The exhaustion of his body, the emptiness inside, and the overwhelming loneliness that felt almost tangible, all of these, left the elderly man's life hanging by a thread. That night, Theodore was suddenly awakened by the sound of the alarm, and the biometric monitor implanted near his heart displayed the symbol for fifth. He hurriedly searched for the operation manual, only to discover that this symbol indicated a critical illness notification for terminally ill prisoners. The authorities would process the record through information transmission and send a new prisoner to take his place. Theodore felt only despair in his heart, as if he would never see his beloved again. Since that was the case, there was no need to follow the rules any longer. Enduring the pain, he cut open his skin and dug out the monitor. The blaring alarm finally stopped. He buried the monitor, along with the bitter memories of the past 15 years, deep in the ground. But even after gaining his freedom, he had no idea what he should do, and could only mechanically repeat his previous routines. However, when he saw a newly arrived landing pod, he became flustered and uneasy. He quietly crept closer and discovered that the newcomer was a woman who was communicating with the AI. Theodore's monitor no longer showed any signs of life, yet the transport satellite was still receiving ore. The woman asked if she needed to personally escort him, which gave Theodore quite a fright. Unable to sleep that night, he thought it over and decided to strike first. Even though he was already old and frail, his life was still at stake. However, when he entered the cabin holding a shovel, he hesitated. Before taking a young life, he wanted to first see her past. But the diary was filled with the language of the Orns, and at the end, there were words expressing hatred for humans. Clearly, this woman's background was anything but simple. Memories from the past resurfaced scenes of time spent with her Orn foster father came vividly to mind, but the intrusion of human soldiers became a lifelong nightmare that haunted Nia. When she first arrived, she was incredibly curious about the vast world outside, but she almost suffocated from the thin oxygen outdoors. Only then did she realize that going outside required wearing a mask. Although all her actions had to follow the AI's instructions, she still needed the AI to keep her company and chat with her. Little did they know, their conversation was overheard by Theodore, who was lurking outside. However, he missed the latter part where the AI advised Nia not to take action. Rather than provoking someone who was already dying, it would be better to let him fend for himself. That was why the events of that night unfolded as they did. But what Theodore didn't know was that Nia hadn't actually fallen asleep that night. When the two first met in the mine, they didn't exchange a single word. One of them hadn't spoken to a living person in 15 years, while the other was extremely wary of the prisoner before her. But when Nia returned home, she discovered that her diary had mysteriously disappeared. The AI explained Theodore's actions, which infuriated Nia so much that she grabbed a knife and went to confront him. Just then, outside the cabin, Nia overheard Theodore hesitating over whether or not to kill her. Wow, sound effect. And so she decided to strike first. The elderly Theodore had never anticipated such a situation, but the knife pressed against his neck never came down. She only asked him where the diary was. After thinking it over, Nia still couldn't bring herself to take a life, which, to Theodore, was undoubtedly great news. If they couldn't be enemies, then there was a chance they could become friends. 15 long years of loneliness might finally be coming to an end. At nightfall, Theodore came alone. Facing Nia, whose face was full of self-doubt, he could only humble himself and apologize for having stolen the diary back then. He just wanted to know about things on Earth. He was simply too lonely, his mind filled with uninvited voices. Respecting the elderly and caring for the young might be human nature. Faced with the old man before her, Nia couldn't bring herself to be harsh and could only respond perfunctorily. Earth is still healthy, and people still watch TV. Of course, he doesn't watch it. As for his name, that's not something he can disclose. The next day, he took the initiative to share tips for living here. Only by consciously keeping your mind occupied with something can you prevent your inner world from being overwhelmed by the chaotic noise of your subconscious, until silence completely crushes you. The previous prisoner had died for exactly this reason. Seeing Theodore's sincerity, Nia finally told him her name. When a phrase that was originally meaningless becomes tied to a person's life, it gains value. Enduring the grueling, high-intensity work day after day was already hard enough, not to mention having a chatterbox by your side, as if he was pouring out everything he'd bottled up over 15 years all at once. For no particular reason, Nia found herself wishing old Xiao would die sooner, yet the AI's mechanical, rigid voice made her feel even more bored. That morning, Nia received an invitation from Xiao Duo to have dinner together, of course. It was purely out of friendship. Nia was troubled by it the entire day. After all, which of the exiled prisoners here wasn't carrying a serious crime on their back? She didn't want to go, but had no reason to refuse. Xiao Duo was under a lot of pressure too. He prepared as carefully as if he were going on a first date to Kerish music, treasured wine, even the placement of the tableware was meticulously arranged. Yet, after getting everything ready, he found himself waiting anxiously. Fortunately, he finally waited for Nia to arrive empty-handed and, with a little help from alcohol, the barrier between them was successfully broken. Before their conversation officially began, Xiao Duo had to tell Nia that there was a special gas on this planet. Although it wouldn't harm anyone, it would record all your thoughts and then play them back to you all at once, almost as if it were alive. When it came to Nia's diary, which was written entirely in Owen language, Xiao Duo asked if the Owens were now in power on Earth. However, Nia solemnly denied it, saying that only humans would do such a thing and that she was actually an adopted daughter of the Owens. Xiao Duo also showed her a bit of the Owen language, knew some, but didn't know where he had learnt it. He had been here for so long that he had forgotten many things. Nia asked about his crime, but he brushed it off by claiming he wasn't feeling well, and even offered her a cigarette. Only afterwards did he vaguely say that he had been framed by his wife's lover. Nia did not suspect anything, but stated openly that his crime was terrorism because he had wanted to behead the Prime Minister. It felt wonderful to talk to someone again after so many years. But aside from that, Xiao Duo actually sensed something. Strange memories from the past seemed to be gradually resurfacing. He suddenly felt lost. Was his current self truly his real self? Did the memories he believed in ever really exist? Or were they just fabricated illusions in his mind? Nia, however, offered comfort, saying that at least on this planet, none of that really mattered. Xiao Duo took the opportunity to fetch some water and collect his thoughts, but was met head-on by a thick, heavy fog. Thoughts that had once crossed his mind surged over him like a flood, overwhelming him, along with memories that seemed both real and illusory. Panicked, he ran back to the cabin, filled only with despair. Nia could only call his name and try to calm him down, but he said that the name Xiao Duo was something he had imagined. Nia didn't pay it any mind, nor did she try to calm him down. Instead, she laid bare her own past. As a human orphan, she had been taken in by the Owens, only to witness her alien adoptive parents killed by humans before her very eyes. All these years of scheming and endurance had been for the sake of avenging that deep, blood-soaked grudge from the past. Only then did Xiao Duo understand the whole story. Indeed, all happy people are alike in their happiness, but each unhappy person has their own misfortune. Rather than being drowned in sorrow, it's better to watch some TV and cheer up. This old television, which had accompanied him for 15 years, could receive TV programs through voice commands. And what he liked most was naming the protagonists after himself and his beloved. Although there were some ups and downs, it was still a very pleasant evening. Nia also said goodnight to Xiao Duo when they parted, but Xiao Duo corrected her, saying that his name was not Xiao Duo. The real name that came back to him along with his memories was Nathan. Nia neither agreed nor disagreed, simply leaving with a calm expression. Little did she know just how much the news had shaken him. At that time, a human soldier broke into the Owens refugee camp, believing they had kidnapped Nia. He repeatedly warned them to raise their hands and not move, but Nia's Owen adoptive father, trying to protect the frightened and fleeing Nia, was mistaken by the soldier as about to attack. The soldier resolutely shot himself and then proceeded to kill all the Owens on the spot. And that soldier became a nightmare, haunting Nia's dreams night after night. That soldier's name was Nathan. He tried to confirm Xiao Duo's true identity with the AI, but didn't get any useful information. At this point, it was up to him alone to judge what was right or wrong. The next day, Nia invited the so-called Nathan to her home as a guest. The old man, carrying local fruits and melons, had no idea what kind of wedding he was about to attend. As soon as he sat down, Nia showed him photos from her hometown, but Xiao Duo didn't recognize any of them. As for whether he had ever been a soldier, or if he had killed his wife's lover, he had no memory at all. With a serious expression, Nia pressed him about his past, trying to help him recover his long-buried memories. But this only frightened the old man, who became angry, pushed Nia away, and hurriedly fled. It was only when Nia truly encountered the fog on this planet that she realized everything the old man had said was true. Those noises were filled with negative emotions, and upon closer listening, they turned out to be the voices of old parents and siblings. They wailed about their own suffering, mixed with resentment and anger, frightening Nia so much that she fled in panic. Meanwhile, Xiao Duo, who had run home alone, also experienced hallucination. His wife's figure appeared before him, speaking words of temptation. Nia was deliberately forcing him, just to separate the husband and wife. And Xiao Duo had only one choice he could make. Let's just say it was for us. In his confused state, Xiao Duo finally gripped the shovel tightly once again. Nia also held a sharp blade, asking the AI about the other's whereabouts. But without the monitor, the other person was as good as invisible to the machines, so Nia could only fight alone. He was drawn by a noise coming from outside and crept over silently, only to find nothing there. The older, more experienced man proved craftier after lying in ambush for a long time. He struck a heavy blow from behind. When Nia woke up, he was shocked to find that the other person had actually removed his mask, clearly intending to kill him. Even though he claimed he was being framed, Nia still did everything he could to dodge the heavy blows, hurriedly fleeing back to the cabin, only to find no spare mask there. Xiao Duo chased him all the way back to the cabin, but Nia was lying in wait. This old man clearly wanted to get rid of him and continue living in the dream world he had created. Since that's the case, he had to act first and force him to remember the monstrous crimes he once committed. A total of 7 lives were lost at his hands, which is why he could speak Ornish. He only used those phrases to intimidate them. Even though Xiao Duo kept denying it, Nia confessed that the mist had already revealed the whole truth to her. With a knife held to him, Xiao Duo seemed on the verge of recalling his true memories. But instead he flew into a rage and fought back desperately, as if that truth was even more terrifying than death itself. Neither side held back anymore. Nia launched another heavy attack, seized the opportunity to escape at top speed, and, enduring the low oxygen environment, ran to the abandoned landing pod previously used by the prisoner. As she opened the door, she came face to face with the prisoner's corpse. It was only because the air circulation system was still functioning that she had a chance to take in everything before her. If the world outside could be called heaven, then this place could only be described as hell. No wonder Xiao Duo appeared so pure and unblemished. It was because he had hidden all his sins, all his remorse, and all his negative emotions here. Meanwhile, Xiao Duo, who was pursuing from behind, also began to gradually recall his lost memories amidst the mist. Back then, his wife had indeed had an affair. As he recalled the past, he stepped into the cabin, only to be repeatedly rebuffed by Nia. The violent beating, accompanied by relentless questioning, made Xiao Duo remember everything. The lover he had cherished for 15 years had died by his own hand. Nia, however, flew into a rage, relentlessly pressing Xiao Duo about what exactly he had done to his family. But the old man seemed to have lost all will to live, wanting only to silently await his own death. Yet Nia did not deal a fatal blow. Instead, she brought the severely injured old man back to the cabin. After calming down, Nia intended to write in her diary, but upon seeing Nathan's name in it, she instantly understood everything. The mist slowly drifted in, and this time, it was filled with all the negative emotions in her heart-longing, sorrow, cowardice, guilt, regret, and fear overwhelming her to the point of tears. But when the mist cleared, she suddenly realized that she had never longed for peace as much as she did now. Nia returned to Xiao Duo and confirmed with him whether the old man had guessed that her name was Nathan after looking at the name in the diary. So, he was not the one who killed her family at all. Shodo also admitted that the reason he could speak Ornish was because his neighbour was an Orn. The reason he did this was because he truly realised his own guilt while in the mist. And the thing human nature is best at is finding excuses for oneself. At the end of his life, he no longer wanted to evade responsibility, but hoped to find relief through this. Nia was only heartbroken. She never really intended to kill her subordinate. Revenge is human nature, but the Orn people taught her peace. She came here only to seek tranquility away from the world, never expecting to willingly accept new restraints. Xiao Duo understood her feelings, and in the very end, he was also willing to offer his help. Nia's biometric monitor was transplanted into Xiao Duo's body. With the passing of one life, Nia was truly removed from the system. She gained true freedom in every sense of the word. When a person reaches the very top of the world, the only voice they can hear is their own. At that moment, wasn't he also living on a silent planet? End of this story.